in one corner of the room, our co-worker Cecil was using lots of noises and samples that I'd made, found, or been given that had resonated with me while I was writing the book, natural sounds. He played them into the room in real time and he improvised on them. It could be anything from a birch wood in October to a strong wind blowing through barbed wire.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy, it's John, and it's time to dig into those files. And John, you are the one digging through your files. What have you pulled out for me and the rest of the class today, my friend?
So we're going back to one of our regular haunts, that being the output of certain artists, PJ Harvey.
Oh, there we go. You had me. I was running out of edge of seat over here as you were milking that. Okay, cool. PJ Harvey. I'm looking forward to getting back into this. So this has been one of those ones we've been doing chronologically. So where are we now with this?
We are at her 10th, and as this comes out, her latest album from 2023.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, geez, I should have. I wish I would have known that we'd already reached the end of the road. Not, I mean, technically we haven't. We can always go back to the beginning of the road and pick out other stuff from other albums. But okay, 2023. Here we are.
I expect you to wear a tie at least. No, so the track that I'd like you to listen to is called "I Inside the Old I Dying," and it's "I" as in first person singular, not.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What was I inside
the old I dying?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Very interesting name. Okay, let me go off, give this thing a go, take my notes, and I will come back and let you know what I thought. What? A couple acoustic guitar picks into this, and right out of the gate, I mean, this is really weird. It's reminding me of this might be a record too, by the way, as far as like a song making me think of another song in such a short amount of time. But just the way that guitar came in on its lonesome picking like that, it sounds a lot like the track "I Will Follow You Into the Dark" by Death Cab for Cutie that I had given John earlier on this. So I'm already like pleased with the sounds I'm hearing, and I don't want this thumbnail, this, I'm sure, the album cover, to influence my interpretation or anything, but I've always felt that like the sound of acoustic guitar is such a natural, organic sound and an excellent way to conjure visages of, wooded or pastoral scenes. And I know I'm looking at it right now, so of course, but I mean, even if this was just a blank screen, I would think that this kind of sound would lend itself to this kind of imagery. But yeah, let's just take that back. Let that acoustic guitar come in and get an honest chance before I come jumping in with my comparisons. Take this back a little bit, but I want to make an observation about her voice. I don't know if I've ever heard it sound as thin as it does. It doesn't sound bad. It just sounds slightly different, and I'm sure it's she's kind of catered her voice to the sound that she's looking for here. Um, but it is thin and reedy. And it only adds to this. I don't know what the exact word I'm looking for here, but there's almost this like mystical nature to all of this um, as it's kind of unfolding here.
Like widows, hedgehogs in the leafy ditch are waiting for his kingdom. The earth waits and the dead breaks. It holds the holly's bloody beads. They are his crown of thorns. He will rise again.
A lot of allusions to natural imagery, but also some religious imagery as well. For like right out of the gate, she's talking about like the beach and ash buds, and then frogs and toads and hedgehogs, and kind of their burrows or habitats or whatever, and then which is kind of like a broad look. Then she kind of like drills down a little bit and puts all of her focus into this holly tree with its. She said something about bloody beads, which reminds me of those. I'm sure she's alluding to like the red like holly berries that grow on the holly tree. Um, and there's also this allusion to a crown of thorns and rising again, which, I mean, I'm not the most pious individual in the world, but I mean, she's kind of making it clear that this is an allusion to resurrection, rebirth, this spring, even if you want to draw it back to the nature aspect of it. But all of it, like her imagery, clearly ties back to Christ, which is really interesting and evocative. And I like how she's marrying the natural world with these biblical allusions.
Oh, I'm a ray I'm ray I for. Oh, I'm a ray I'm ray I for.
O Wyman, unray I for him, or something like that. I don't know. Wyman's a name. I know that much, but yeah, the rest of it, I'm not piecing together.
Step from my childish skin, I sing your singing through the forest. I hover in the high, led up into the leaves. Oh, I'm a ray I'm ray I for. Oh, I'm a ray I'm ray I for. My laughing leaves and bursting leaves just to charm and move with the chalky children of evermore.
What's that? The Chalky Children of Evermore sounds like this, like another term for like spirits or ghosts or memories of your past, of your childhood. Which, I mean, memories and ghosts often, uh, sometimes memories get referred to as ghosts and so forth. These things that linger from our past. It was really interesting. That verse before it also had her like slipping into her childhood and talking about laughing into the leaves and stuff like that. And then following one seemed to kind of pick up on that, like almost directly, where I think the opening line was again talking about laughing in leaves. But there were other lines that followed that I didn't quite pick up on, or I mean, I think I heard the word, what I thought was the word mish, But that, I don't even, I say the word, question mark, is that a word? I don't, it's not one I've ever heard. Um, Something about the charm and something else too. I didn't pick up on all of it. I'm gonna try to take this back and let that kind of wash over me again, but I have no clue if I'm gonna pick up on these lyrics or not. But yeah, it's a pretty short song.
I'm ready for it. Oh, I'm ready for it.
The second voice is intriguing too.
Well, laughing leaves and burst to me, it's just a charming mirror with the chalky children of evermore. Chalky children of evermore. The 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 chalky children of evermore.
What a really interesting, evocative track. It has this hazy, like, dark, or I don't know. It's not dark as in scary, but there is mystery surrounding it. So whatever, I don't know, on the hierarchy of shades of darkness, if like dark is, oh my god, fear, but somewhere before that, in this charcoal gray, there exists the feeling of mystery, and even supernatural. I don't know. There's something about this is mystical and otherworldly. So that's why it has like this dark fairy tale kind of vibe to it. Like you're running around in this enchanted fanghorn like forest where, you know, you can encounter a Christ-like holly tree, or these pale-faced youthful spirits. I don't know, it all is very interesting and really kind of ignites the imagination, and I don't know what it is about this sound and the earthy natural aesthetic to it that in my mind conjures like one, high fantasy, because I'm a nerd for that kind of stuff, and this makes me think of the same kind of imagery you would get in a high fantasy novel or series or something to that effect. But there's also something about like that just kind of reminds me of mythology. You know, in particular and obviously some of that mythology of the United Kingdom and the British Isles, and you know, fairies and druids and all kinds of these, interestingly enough, pre-Christian kind of beliefs and stories, even though there was clearly some religious Christian imagery in this, ironically. But yeah, all of it I found to be very pretty and thought-provoking, and none of the things I would put past PJ, because she's fully capable of this, obviously. But yeah, I really enjoyed giving this a go. There were also in this, for some reason, of all the songs, trying to be like, yeah, that one reminds me of this one. I think the best correlation I can make is like that I heard shades. I'll tell you this: I would very much believe that the same individual and thought process and tact that went into writing. Is it A Mess We're In? The one that she collaborated with Tom York on, and there's some cross area in the Venn diagram between those two songs, so I can hear similarities for sure. Yeah, yeah, really, really like this one. I'm going to listen to it more and more, kind of figure out where exactly it's going to go in my hierarchy of PJ Harvey songs that we've covered on this channel. But I imagine it would be pretty high up there because I thought this was quite a little evocative treat. So yeah, I'd be really interested to hear John's perspective in what he knows about this song to kind of help fill in the gaps, particularly with some of those words in the chorus and in the latter part, the later verses that didn't really make sense to me. Mish comes to mind, and basically everything outside of Wyman in the chorus. So John will have all that information, and I'm sure more. So let's hurry back to him.
Assingbourne come Neesworth, he's back. So you've had to listen to I Inside the Old, I Dying. What do you reckon?
A lot. I mean, there's a lot to think about, and there's a lot that comes to mind, and a lot the imagination can do after just hearing roughly 3 minutes of music, which is pretty impressive for her to be able to evoke all of those thoughts and feelings in just a 3 minute timestamp. But out of the gate, it's interesting because I'm thrust into what is my experience every time I press play when I go to listen to a song that I've given you in the past. And there's this opening couple of seconds. I mean that literally. I think I may have broken a record for how quickly another song was conjured after pressing play on one that you had given me. It took me to the beginning of I Will Follow You Into the Dark by Death Cab for Cutie. We recently just talked about this song because we recently just did an episode by them where that song came up. And it's that strange, it's just so stripped back and intimate, and both these songs share that quality so well, and it's something that only a well-mic'd acoustic guitar can really conjure or make you feel. And not only did it kind of sound similar, but it had that overall feeling and aesthetic to it. So needless to say, I'm already invested in the sound that she's cultivating here in just the opening few seconds of the track. And within just a few seconds of those opening few seconds, I begin to feel the slightest bit of percussive work emerging through the soundscape in the form of mostly gentle, what feels like brushstroke work on the drums. And I mean that literally, like the brush sticks, which this would call for. Obviously, you don't want someone back there with goddamn mallets hammering away when this is the gentle tone you've got going on here. But it's already starting to sound a little like oddly hazy. And maybe it's the looseness of those drum hits that add to that, and the way that they kind of came from the distance sounding and kind of emerged and settled in. All of it is a really interesting evocative sound that they're working with. And then she comes in with these oohs or doos or whatever it is, but she's vocalizing, and it's very haunting. Her voice is during this portion, which again is like, I don't know, the soundtrack to a memory bank. Like as you go back in your own head and you have to sift through the haziness of some of it, there's not a lot of crisp clarity, save for just the very beginning, those couple notes on the guitar. Then everything else after that, as it takes form, has a little bit of fog to it, which I like. I really do. And I think is wildly intentional. I don't think that this is like, I'm not splitting hairs over something I don't like. I think this is intentional and I'm observing it. And soon she begins to deliver the proper lyrics in the first verse, and her voice sounds, for me and what I've heard so far, thinner and readier than what I'm used to, which I also think is a choice. I don't think this is her aging and her voice going out on her. I don't think this is an instance of that. Although you do hear that with some artists as they grow older and older and they continue to tour and write music and everything. I don't think this is an example of that. I think this is very much intentional. And in the verse, she paints these very pastoral scenes with references to beach and ash buds, as well as frogs, toads, and hedgehogs in their natural environments and abodes, which is, hey, I grew up on a 10-acre farm, the son of a wildlife biologist. I'm loving where I'm at right now. This is like reminding me of my childhood and running through the swamps and the wetlands and the woods behind my house and observing some of the shit she's talking about. Hedgehogs notwithstanding, I would say groundhogs as a substitute. And there's something very organic about this instrumentation as well, also clearly intentional. And I'm trying not to let the obvious infiltrate my the scenes in my head, but the fucking album cover is already kind of taking you into the woods, literally. So I mean, there's all of this happening, and I'd love to maintain and do insist that if that album cover was the Black Album and it was just all black, I would have had the same images come to mind. I wouldn't need to have been led by the hand. But all of it is painting these lovely natural organic images in my head. And there's something about there's something, I should say, very, like I mentioned a moment ago, organic about the instrumentation as well, which perfectly matches the aesthetic of the lyrical content. So it's this perfect marriage of sounds and narrative. And in the next stanza, she sings of the earth waiting, and something about dead breaks that host the holly's bloody beads, which are on its crown of thorns. This is really interesting. She then proclaims that he will rise again. So here she is injecting some biblical allusions of rebirth and resurrection, literally of Christ, into this very natural setting, using the holly tree as an example. The bloody beads line, that I loved it, because we right out of our living room window in the same farm that I grew up on, that I alluded to a moment ago, was this large holly tree that would have those red holly berries. And one of my favorite things to do in the winter was when it snowed, look at that tree, because the cardinals would pop off that emerald green holly tree. And it was such a Rockwellian image, sort of captured outside of our home. And it just looked like the perfect postcard for a winter wonderland, this holly tree with a cardinal on it and the red popping off the green, Christmassy in color palette as well. So yeah, it's really stirring up a lot of memories and images of my own, which is interesting because the song becomes the about memories, at least to some extent, from my POV. It feels like that's what she's talking about here. And even the title, even though it's oddly worded, is starting to make sense to me a little bit as the song goes through. So yes, we have this Christ-like holly tree, and then a faint lower voice joins her in the chorus as they sing of this, or maybe two, a Wyman, which I'm sure has some significance, but what it is, I'm not altogether sure. And then there was another line that I was unable to discern at all. Discern, I heard it, or I think I heard it. I don't know what the fuck it means. So she says something like, I unray for him, or something to that extent. But given that doesn't make any fucking sense, I suspect I've either done a piss poor job of deciphering the code, or this is Old English or some shit like that. You know what I mean? I'm not familiar with. Your nodding is at least making sense of why I couldn't make sense of it. So there you have it. Outside of like Old Lang Syne and maybe snippets of Beowulf that I was forced to read in high school, my Old English is fucking dreadful. So this gives way to another verse. This time we have her slipping into her childhood skin and singing through the forest. Though I think she also mentioned something about hovering in a hallway. I don't know how you stumble upon a hallway in the woods unless it's a natural one. But then she delivers the lines, laugh into the leaves. So she continues this route of describing very natural settings, save for that little line about the hallway. But perhaps I'm being too literal in my interpretation of that word hallway. The chorus repeats thereafter before giving way to another stanza of the verse. And again, she takes us back to her laughing into the leaves, picking up like right where she left off from the previous verse. But then she continues to use terms I'm not familiar with, like miche, and then something about charming. of the or in the woke. Um, odd. Which, I don't interpret any of that, but there's also a line about chalky children of Evermore, which sounds like an interesting way to describe ghosts or spirits. Um, I also have to say that by the end of it, spoiler alert, she repeats that, or those dual voices repeat it, and I started to think of like memories are like ghosts. If the line that I've said to you before, if dreams are like movies, then memories are films about ghosts. And I've always loved that lyric from an old Counting Crows song. And it came to mind when she kept repeating that, as if she's looking back, and the haziness, through the haziness that has been so well captured in the sound of the music, she's having visages of her youth laughing in the leaves. And here she is, this older, perhaps dying version, as the title would suggest, looking back at her youth that has this very mystical nature to it. The whole aesthetic of this thing does. So I really, really loved this song. She, along with the second vocalist, like repeat the line like I mentioned a moment ago, earlier, and I found it more and more haunting with each repetition of that. And the more she repeated it, it allowed me to marinate on the subject matter. Yeah, this was wildly evocative. It's with this hazy, almost mystical atmosphere to it. It reminded me of a dark fairy tale. And when I say dark, I don't mean dark as in evil, but like dark as in mysterious. I was joking about the shades of coloration and what it connotes as far as feelings. And if pitch black is fear or danger, this is some sort of charcoal gray of mystery that surrounds this track. And it's like it's unfolding in this Fangorn-esque woods, these magical, mystical, Tolkien-like woods that we've got going on here with these never dying white-faced children running about laughing. Like you sometimes hear in ghost stories, children's laughter is being caught, on audio or whatever. And it just sounds like this would be the perfect example of that. And I think these children are memories. And all of it also reminded me very much of just high fantasy writing, and also mythology. And the mythology that comes to mind is the mythology that I'm familiar with from the British Isles, where you have these forests of enchantment and fairies and things like druids and shit like that, which we've also talked about in the not so distant past. So all of that stuff got thrown into this big fucking Macbethian cauldron, and here we are. That was my interpretation of it all. I could listen to this several more times and give you even more thoughts about it, but our episodes are already wildly too fucking long. So please tell me more about this, John.
That, Andy. Okay. Oh, first off, there is no explanation for the lyrics of this song at all, so it's totally open to your own. What I will say is that last bit, the chalky children of Evermore, it rings several things for me. So the word Evermore obviously can mean what it means, eternity. But I think of the battle, of the Led Zeppelin song as well, and this sort of mystical place.
Yeah.
And the chalky children, because of the word chalky, you go to ghost, like, which is, nothing's right or wrong. I think of the hill chalk figures that you get around the southern parts of England in particular.
Oh, okay.
These figures made in chalk on the side of hills that last for centuries, and they're echoes of previous civilizations or of societies that came before, and they're lasting forever through the changing landscape. It's just a thing that pops into my head when I hear that, and it could be something completely different. It could be ghost-like as well, but all these different things resonate. This is an amazing album, and it's on another level. I wouldn't say it's a better level than other stuff she's done, but it's a step into something different. And honestly, it's probably my third favorite album of hers. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
John, really quickly, I also want to say, now that we've done a lot of her songs, I'm alluded to this, and I'd be remiss to not mention it to you, since you're the one that's giving me all these songs. Of all the songs that she's given me, if I had to compare it to any of them, the closest thing is like I think that there are some Venn diagram things happening here with this track and the mess we're in, where it's a little bit stripped back in its songwriting approach, and the vocals do a lot to add atmosphere to it and evoke feeling. So if you, I find it very easy to buy that the same songwriter who penned this penned the mess we're in. So yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest. It was an observation that I made, but yeah, I'm sorry. Back to you.
She's clearly not been able to, do the song she was doing at the start of her career, and she has evolved, which is great to
Yeah,
see. And this is this sort of alternative folk sort of sound to it that's really
and
organic
with
and
that,
really
an
interesting.
inherent maturity to the sound that you don't have in like Rid of
Yeah,
Me or any of that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the album is "I Inside the Old Year Dying," 10th studio album by PJ Harvey, released in July 2023. So personnel: PJ Harvey vocals. This is for the notes from the album: nylon string guitar, steel string guitar, electric guitar, baritone guitar, bass guitar, piano, Rhodes piano, bass clarinet, drawings, inner sleeve photography, and, and more besides, actually. John Parrish, longtime collaborator, drums, percussion, vocals, so you heard him there. Rhodes piano, synth, variophone, trombone, acoustic and electric guitar, bass guitar, and mixing production. Um, Cecil, or the Americans would pronounce it Cecil.
Cecil.
Field recording samples, voice samples, bass keyboards, synth, piano, loop creations, and additional recording. And producer Flood, synth, field recording samples, effects, pedals, loop creations, sonic disturbance, mix and production. And as a special sort of added treat, Ben Whishaw, the actor who plays Q in the James Bond films recently,
Okay. Yeah.
who also was the voice of Paddington. He provides backing vocals on tracks 8 and 10. And Colin Morgan, another actor from Ireland, he played Merlin in the BBC sort of
Okay.
series of Merlin, and lots of other stuff. Backing vocals on tracks 9 and 11. So they're doing stuff in there as well. So upon the release, this album was met with widespread critical acclaim and debuted at number 5 in the UK albums charts. It was inspired by PJ's epic poem Orlam, was partially improvised with producers Flood and Parrish, Harvey describing the meaning as searching, looking, the intensity of first love, and seeking meaning. She additionally called it a resting place, a solace, a comfort, a balm, which feels timely for the times we're in. The album is scattered with biblical imagery and references to Shakespeare and Elvis Presley. Um, and as I said, British actors Colin Morgan and Ben Whishaw inspired parts of the book Orlam and the album, and the voice can be heard on those tracks, those 4 tracks. So I Inside the Old Year Dying received a score of 85 on Metacritic, indicating universal acclaim. The Guardian named it Album of the Week, described it as enigmatic and occasionally disturbing, as well as a rough-edged LP full of potency and atmosphere, and concluded that, like the Dorset woods they describe, I Inside the Old Year Dying is eerily forbidding, but intoxicating and easy to lose yourself in. Mojo wrote the album holds itself at the biting point between old and new, and called it a record Harvey was born to make. Enemy described the album as elusive and mesmerizing, and while it takes a little time to immerse yourself in Harvey's world, once there, you won't want to leave. And AllMusic claimed it a triumph in its own right and declared Inside the Old Year Dying's lively exploration is also rekindling of something vital in Harvey's art in general. Though its whispers and shadows may not reveal everything, they are more than enough for a fascinating listening experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So I will come back to some of that, but the lyrics. So they are. This song's not too bad. Some songs really are. They are written in an ancient Dorset dialect. Hence, certain words are odd.
Okay.
But I will explain. So the beech buds wait, the ash buds wait, the frogs and toads in lagwood holes, hedgehogs in their leafy ditch, all waiting for his kingdom. The earth waits and the dead breaks, that host the hollies of bloody beads. They are his crown of thorns. He will rise again. O Wyman, unray I for N. O Wyman, unray I for N. Slip from my childhood skin, I sing. I'm singing through the forest. I hover in the hallway, laugh into the leaves. O Wyman, unray I for N. O Wyman, unray I for N. I laugh in leaves and merge to mish, just a charm in the woke, with the chalky children of evermore. The chalky children of evermore repeated another 8-9 times. And that's it. So this is a direct quote from one of her bits. This delicate and beautiful song eluded us until the very last day in the studio. Over the previous 5 weeks, we had tried so many times to capture it and failed. And but then John reinvented the feel of the guitar pattern. As he was demonstrating in the cold control room, Flood handed me a microphone and pressed record when I sat down next to John to try and work out how to sing it. The result somehow captures the ethereal and melancholic longing I was looking for. So, in April 2022, PJ published a book-length narrative poem titled Orlam. And very briefly, 9-year-old Ira Abel Rules lives on Hook Farm in the village of Underwellham. Next to the farm is Gore Woods, Ira's sanctuary, overseen by Orlam, the all-seeing lamb's eyeball, who is Ira Abel's guardian and protector. Here, drawing on the rituals, children's songs, chants, and superstitions of the rural West Country of England, Ira Abel creates the twin realm through which she can make sense of an increasingly confusing and frightening world. So the book Orlam follows Ira and the inhabitants of Underwellham month by month through the last year of her childhood innocence. The result is a poem sequence of light and shadow, suffused with hints of violence, sexual confusion and perversion, the oppression of family, but also ecstatic moments in sunlit clearings, song and bawdy humour. The broad theme is ultimately one of love, carried by Ira's personal Christ, the constantly bleeding soldier ghost, Wyman Elvis, who bears the word, love me tender. Orlam is not only a remarkable coming-of-age tale, but the first full-length book written in the Dorset dialect for many decades. Orlam also reveals PJ Harvey as not only one of the most talented songwriters of the age, but a gifted poet. His foremost skill, transforming eye and ear for the lyric line, has produced a strange and moving poem like no other. So, really interesting stuff. And this is the book, Orlam. And how it's been produced is month by month going through. And on the right-hand page is the poem that she's written. And then on the left-hand page is the version in English.
Oh, okay.
So it translates all the words. So, I mean, the I Inside the Old Eye Dying isn't that difficult, but I will just read it again. Oak and beech buds wait, the velvet ash buds wait. Frogs and toads in logwood holes and hedgehogs in the leafy ditch, all waiting for his kingdom. Wyman, love me tender. I mean, I think also you can translated Wyman means warrior.
Yeah, that's the meaning of the name.
And Iron Dress for him, Love Me Tender, same sort of this the whole theme about the lyrics Love Me Tender throughout this album. Earth waits, the dead breaks, host the holly berries. They are his crown of thorns, and he will rise again. Wyman, undress I for him, slip from my childhood skin. I sing through the forest, I hover in the hollow lane. I laugh in the leaves and merge into moss, just a song in the oak with the chalky children of evermore. So
Yeah.
There's a really interesting, just about squeezed it in. So she did a conversation, an interview with a chap called Greg LaGambina for the Los Angeles Review of Books website. And she just revealed some stuff here about about the writing of it. So he kicks off. He says, maybe we can start talking about what a day of working on All looked like. And PG Harvey says, I wrote it over 80 years between London and Dorset. When I was in Dorset, I spent a lot of time just being in nature, walking in the woods, observing the seasons. Wherever I went, I'd always take my notepad with me, but I did a lot of study as well. I studied Dorset folklore. I studied everything to do with the seasons, everything from what flowers and trees were coming into leaf or fruiting to what insects were being born or dying. When I go out walking each month, I would walk within the month. I'd study the month and study what was going on in the nature that month. And I would study the folklore surrounding the month. And then I would just go out walking with my notepad and let words come to me. I'd often write out 4 or 5 sides of paper. Sometimes the rhythm of a poem might start forming. And I'd write it very loosely, not worrying too much about the content, but trying to get the essence of the rhyme of the earth, what I was trying to reach. Ideas just come to me walking. I find my intellectual brain is sharpest in the morning. Once I've started writing, I have a work practice. When you're someone in creative arts, you have to run your own schedule or you never get anything done. Luckily, I do have quite a bit of self-discipline that way. So I'll go to my desk and be there at 9:30 and work till 1:30. The afternoons are spent experimenting with musical ideas or just getting out and about. As an artist, I think you need to go out into the world and observe and look at other people's artworks just to be present in the world. And he says, a writer works mostly in solitude, but you have the unique opportunity to express the words you've written through your music to thousands of people at once. Has the experience of touring Eye Inside the Old Year Dying changed your poem in any meaningful way? And she says, when I was writing Orlam, I didn't know it was going to be songs and music. I really didn't. I was taking a break from music because I returned from touring my last album, and I was becoming more and more interested in learning the skill of poetry writing. I was offered a mentorship course with the Scottish poet Don Patterson. I had met him because I'd been to some of his workshops. This was when I was writing Let England Shake in 2011. I realised the subject matter for that record, war, current war and past war, was such a gargantuan and difficult subject to write about that I knew I had to take great care of the words. I didn't want to feel like I was standing on a soapbox preaching to people or giving a history lesson. It's very difficult to get right. So with Orlam, I was working hard at becoming a better writer under Don's guidance. It's amazing to think she thinks that. It wasn't about creating a book. The book grew out of the study I was doing with him. I had no intention for it to become an album or music, but towards the end of finishing the book, I began to fall in love with music again. My body and spirit were needing it, and I was finding myself playing more. Like trying to get better at writing poems, I always practiced piano, I practiced guitar. I tried to get better because I was never schooled in any of these things. I didn't study English, I didn't study music. So in some ways, I'm self-taught. Along the course of my life, I've been lucky enough to meet people who have given me guidance on that road, but I am self-taught, which has its drawbacks. It has great advantages too, in that there are no rules. You can invent your own language through music or through words. While I was practicing, trying to become a better pianist, I just found that I wanted to start singing. And the only words that were deep in my system at the time were the words I was writing for Orlam. So he asked, how did you know or arrive at what Orlam sounded like? And she says, it took us quite a while. I was working with Flood and John Parrish, and it took a long time for us to feel our way into what this musical album could be. Obviously, it's quite strange to be singing in a Dorset dialect and inhabiting those different characters. We just all went into the studio with an open mind, had the words, had the rough outline of the chordal movements and a few melodies. We basically improvised together while creating an atmosphere that felt right for the project. In one corner of the room, our co-worker Cecil was using lots of noises and samples that I'd made, found, or been given that had resonated with me while I was writing the book, natural sounds. He played them into the room in real time and he improvised them. It could be anything from a birch wood in October to a strong wind blowing through barbed wire. He played these noises, and John and I and Flood would play instruments into and around the way the noise was making us feel. I would start singing, and we crafted these songs over the next 5 weeks. Yeah, it's just really, really fascinating stuff, and it goes on and on. I could go on forever, but I won't.
It is fascinating, though.
It really is. And it's a brilliant album. I strongly recommend you check it out. It's different as well, but it's its own world. It's perfectly formed.
Yeah.
So just to complete, and at the end of December 2025, Harvey confirmed via social media that she's writing songs for her 11th studio album and poems for her next book. She also shared a playlist of songs with deep roots in folk, jazz, post-punk, ambient, and art music. So who knows when it's going to come out? Well, we've got something to look forward to.
Yeah. No doubt.
In terms of this journey that we're on, I did say we've got 2 more albums that she did put out with John Parrish, so I'm going to pick a track from each one of those to complete the journey through her studio stuff. So
Excellent.
and maybe by that time she'd have brought out another. I doubt it though. Anyway, I shall wrap things up. Andy, thanks for listening to this. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's fascinating. Listen, folks out there, please tell us what you think. If you like this, do hit the like button, and please drop your comments. We'd love to hear from you. What you think about this song, this album, how it sits in the rest of her canon. We'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And check out the playlist of all the other episodes of PJ Harvey as well for your delectation. That being said, thanks so much for watching. See all of you next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.